Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, October 11th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 641 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. As always, for those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are previewing the New York Jets Week 6 matchup against the Denver Broncos as the Jets and Broncos head across the pond to London for some morning football tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. It'll be the 3-2 Denver Broncos in search for their fourth win of the season and third in a row. And the 0-5 New York Jets still looking for their first win under head coach Aaron Glenn, and obviously still looking for their first win of the 2025 season. A lot to get into, as we always do. We'll give you the New York Jets roadmap to victory. What do the Jets need to do to come away with a win in London tomorrow morning? We'll take a look at offense and defensive keys to the game, X factors, and of course, matchups to watch. And as always, my prediction at the end. But before we get into all of that and dive into the injury report as well and how that impacts this game, just some overall thoughts, the spread, the over-under, and some other things here to touch before we dive into what the Jets need to do to finally get a win here and what has been a miserable 2025 season so far. The Broncos come into this game 6.5-point favorites, over-under set at 43.5. ESPN Analytics matchup predictor is giving the Denver Broncos a strong 70.7% chance of winning, and the New York Jets a minimal 29.1% chance of winning, which is to be expected heading into this game. And when you look at these two teams, they are on the complete opposite trajectory so far through the first 5 weeks of the season, right? You have a New York Jets team here that is coming in 0-5, the only winless team in the NFL, an offense that hasn't played well enough, a defense that hasn't played well enough, a defense that has been one of the worst in the NFL, not just well enough, they've been terrible at that, a special teams that has had their fair share of mistakes, and a coaching staff that, let's just tell like it is right now, looks like they're in over their head, a head coach that looks like he's overwhelmed, and they have been a poorly coached team. That's the state of the New York Jets. And I think another thing to really tie into, kind of add context to this 0-5 record that we all see with this New York Jets team, is their regression, right? Week number 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they looked good. Despite the loss, there was a lot of positives. There was a lot of things to take away from that game that you could say moving forward in the season you were excited to see. However, though, the last 4 games has been everything but that. Their best performance was Pittsburgh. Ever since that, it's been getting worse, and that's the most concerning part of all this, because you have a team with a first-time head coach, a team trying to build a new identity. The expectation for this season was not to win the Super Bowl, was not even to make the playoffs. It was just be competitive and get better as the year went on. When you look at the team early in the year as opposed to later in the season, you want to see growth. You want to see progress. You want to see legitimate examples and legitimate substance from these games that tell you that Aaron Glenn, this coaching staff, and pieces of this roster are positive things moving forward, are legitimate You should have faith in them moving forward. That was the goal at the beginning of the season. That was the expectation, and it's been everything but that so far. They're headed in the wrong direction. And at 0-5, this fan base, myself included, getting impatient, and rightfully so. 14 straight years of no playoffs. Another year of the season being over before we even got out of the month of September. It was another winless month of September. And we're in a position again here, if they keep stacking losses, this team's going to be 0-8 in a blink of an eye going into their bye week where they probably sell off a ton of pieces at the deadline, and you still have no real faith in Aaron Glenn other than just blind optimism at this point because he has shown you absolutely nothing. So this team has to turn it around. They've got to start showing you signs of being competitive. Even if it doesn't result quite to wins, you've got to be more competitive in these games. These games can't continue to be blowouts, continue to be over at halftime. Once this team hits one little piece, a little adversity, whether it's a fumble, whatever it is, they crumble. That needs to end. So that's where the Jets stand in all this. A abysmal start to the season that you look to change here in week 6, because I keep saying it, there's still a lot of time. There are still 12 games left. But every week that I come on this podcast and say that there's a lot of time, the time's only shrinking. So this is another week, week 6, week 7, week 8. You get to the bye week, you're 1-7, 0-8, you really start to feel concerned. So it's getting laid out early for this New York Jets team, even with 12 games still to go, for this coaching staff and this team to start showing some progress and not this continued regression that they've been on over the last 4 games. From the Denver Broncos standpoint, they're in the opposite direction in a good way. This was a team that got off to a little bit of a bumpy start, started the season 1-2, 2 really tough losses against the Colts and the Chargers, 2 really close games. Obviously, the Colts game, a heartbreaker at the end. Even the win over the Titans, it wasn't a very impressive victory. There were certainly a lot of things to clean up. But now over the last 2 weeks, you've started to see this Broncos team come into form. They went in against Cincy on Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago and picked up a dominant victory. And that's what a good team is supposed to do. Is Cincinnati good? No. Is their defense good? No. But that's what a good team is supposed to do, is beat up on the bad teams, take care of business. And that's exactly what they did with a 25-point win, 28-3 over the Bengals at home. And the most impressive win of them all was against the Philadelphia Eagles a week ago, where they go into Philly and beat the then undefeated Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in their own building. And that was a huge win, a very impressive win. And now, in a snap of a finger, after a little bit of a bumpy first 3 weeks, you turn around and you look at this Denver Broncos team. They're 3-2, 3 big wins, the 2 big wins in a row, and now facing a Jets team that they should have no issue beating, really. If we're being honest, you want to call it a trap game, you want to call it a hangover game, having to go to London, further trip, coming off a big win, sure, but this team is better in pretty much every single facet. And they have an opportunity now to continue to stack wins and continue to roll. Bo Nix, Sean Payton, year number 2 of that tandem. A defense that is one of the top in football, arguably the best defense in football. In a lot of areas they are. And they look to continue this upward trend that they are on. After last week's win, the Monday night win against Cincy, make it 3 in a row, get to their 4th win of the year, and continue on what should be a season that puts them in a really strong spot to potentially come away with first place in the AFC West. So 2 teams in completely different spots. A Jets team that are spiraling. A Jets team that has not won a game. A Jets team that has shown you no reason to believe they will win a game. And a Denver Broncos team a year ago made the playoffs and now will look to pick up their 3rd straight win and continue rolling here as they chase down an AFC West divisional title. So now I want to move in here to the injury report for this game. When you look at the Jets side of things, some good news. We'll get to a couple players here that will be out and a questionable. But otherwise, good news. Jermaine Johnson will play. Obviously has missed the last couple of games. He has been a massive, massive loss for this team, for this defense. A Jets defense that has been plagued with injuries this season, or not plagued with injuries. A Jets defense that has been horrible this season, The Jermaine Johnson injury certainly hasn't helped them, so he will return in this game with an ankle injury. And Kene Nwangu, who has also missed significant time, will play in this game, first game since week number 1 against the Steelers, with a hamstring. And that's huge as well, because the kick returning struggles that the Jets have had have been glaring. Every single week, there's been really a key mistake on the kickoff. That at least what it feels like. Obviously, the two killers with the Isaiah Williams game against Miami, as I like to call it, and the Xavier Gipson fumble, and the Braylon Allen getting hurt because he shouldn't have been back there in the first place. So Kene Nwangu, a big piece as well. So Jermaine and Kene back in the lineup. Nice boosts for this New York Jets team. Other than that, though, Michael Carter will miss this one with a concussion, and Alan Lazard will miss this one with personal reasons. So second straight game for Michael Carter as he doesn't clear concussion protocol, didn't make the trip out to London. Brandon Stevens popped up on the injury report late this week. Yesterday, popped up with a neck injury, did not practice, or was limited rather, yesterday, had no injury designation on Wednesday or Thursday, but then was limited on Friday. So something to keep an eye on. Brandon Stevens dealing with a neck, questionable for tomorrow. And as for the Broncos, Ben Powers will miss this one. Their left guard dealing with a bicep injury. Another week here for this New York Jets defense. They have not taken advantage of it, but another week here where they face an opposing team missing a piece up front. Last week, 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen were out for the Dallas Cowboys. Jets couldn't take advantage. We know how banged up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were, not just offensive line, but that entire team, that entire offense. Mike Evans ended up having to leave that game. They couldn't take advantage. So another week here, missing a starting offensive lineman. Can this Jets defensive line finally take advantage? We'll find out in just about 24 hours from this recording. Jonah Ellis will also miss this game, dealing with a rib injury and a shoulder injury. And Malcolm Roach, dealing with a calf, is questionable. So that's the Broncos injury report. So with all that being said, let's dive into the keys to the game, the roadmap to victory here for the New York Jets in week number 6 in London against the Denver Broncos. First offensive key to the game here for the Jets. It's early on in games. I think there's got to be some short, quick completions to get the offense in a rhythm. And the reason I bring that up is last week, Justin Fields is coming off of a game where he was sacked 5 times, pressured 32 times, took 10 quarterback hits, and 16 quarterback hurries. So he was hit 15 times against the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys going into last week only pressured, prior to that game, the most they pressured a quarterback was 25 times. So they increased their pressure significantly over their previous high this season against the Jets and Justin Fields. And this week is going to be another big challenge for this Jets offense and this Jets offensive line. And the reason I specifically bring up the quick passes, short, get into a rhythm early on in this game is really a message to Justin Fields more so than anything, because this is a guy who has taken a lot of sacks because of the time he holds on to the football. And there have been moments where they've gotten to Fields and it was just good pass rush. They got to him. It is what it is. Bad offensive line play. But there were a couple of sacks last week and a couple of sacks this season. And the offensive line, for the most part this year, has been solid. There's certainly been some bumps, but there's been a lot of times where it's been Justin Fields holding on to the football for too long. I look back at 2 of the back-to-back sacks that Justin Fields took last week on the 3rd and long, or the 2nd down rather, that ended up making it, got sacked, and then got sacked again on a 3rd and 29. It was a 3rd and 29 and he took a sack. That's unacceptable. You can't take a sack on 3rd and 29. And the reality is that's been an issue with Justin Fields his entire career, has been holding on to the football for too long. His slow processing time when he drops back in the pocket has always been a weakness of his. And this season, you've kind of seen that pop up again. His average time to throw this year has been 3.27 seconds. That's the highest average time to throw in the NFL. He was averaging about 2.83 against Dallas. So still pretty high, but a tick under 3 seconds. I think what's more important, though, is when you look at Justin Fields this season, he's gone sacked 10 times. 7 out of the 10 sacks that he has taken this year, so 70% of them, is when he's held onto the football for more than 2.5 seconds. All 5 of his turnover-worthy plays this season, he has yet to throw an interception, but all 5 of his turnover-worthy plays have come when he's held onto the football for more than 2.5 seconds. To add on to this, his 81.6 Pro Football Focus pass grade that's his grade when he holds on to the football for less than 2.5 seconds. When he holds on to the football, though, for more than 2.5 seconds, his PFF grade drops to 60.3. That's a 21.3 difference. And 27% of his dropbacks this year have been more than 2.5 seconds. Caleb Williams, the next closest, is 35%. So he's the only quarterback with under 30% of his dropbacks that are 2.5 seconds of him holding onto the football. So the point to all this is Fields again this year has found himself holding onto the football for too long. And when he holds onto the football for too long, not only does he take sacks, but he just hasn't been good. There's been misfires. All 5 of those turnover-worthy plays, like I mentioned, have come in that spot. You look at the Pro Football Focus grade, the drop-off there, 21.3 difference. And it's happened on a lot of his dropbacks. 27% have been more than 2.5 seconds. Or less than, only 27% rather, have been less than 2.5 seconds. That's not good. So he needs to get the ball out quicker. And against a Broncos defensive line that is dominant, it's even more of a priority. You look at this Broncos defense this season. They have 21 sacks. That's first in the NFL. 66 pressures. First in the NFL. A 33.2% pressure rate. First in the NFL. And they're not afraid to blitz either, which is more of an importance on getting the ball out quickly. They have blitzed 59 times this season. That's second in the NFL, and it leads the AFC. And their 29.6% blitz rate is 8th in the NFL. They are brutal to handle up front on the defensive line with that pass rush. Zach Allen, JFM, still can't get over the fact that Joe Douglas gave him away for a bag of chips. Nick Bonino. They have other pieces. DJ Jones, Jonathan Cooper. They can get at you in so many different ways. So many guys have the ability to get home. And if Fields is holding on to the football, continuing for too long, and you get spots where like they were in last week, where it's a lot of not finding anybody open, slow process time, and he's holding on to the football. He's had struggles this season already holding on to the football for too long. When he does hold on to the football for too long, his play drops off. He's not good in those spots. So quick passes, that's where he's at his best, getting rid of the football against the defensive line that's going to get the pressure. The Jets aren't going to be able to completely eliminate this defensive line. This is a unit that you just have to find a way to contain. That's how good they've been, and that's what you have to expect tomorrow morning. So that's my first offensive key to the game. My second offensive key to the game, it's finish drives and start fast. I'm kind of tying these two into one because you look at this Jets defense or look at this Jets offense this season, and their starts have been brutal. Their starts have been unacceptable. And I know you could look at it and say, oh, well, they've kicked field goals on a lot of their opening drives. But you've got to start to finish those opening drives. And it's not just the opening drives. Really, the bigger issue has been after the opening drive. Because, okay, at least you can get points on the opening drive. But it's been after that. They've been horrible. This is a team that hasn't scored a first half touchdown since week 1. And just in general, you look at the scores of these games when they score their first touchdown, they've been blowouts. I brought this stat up in the 2 episodes this week. Against the Cowboys last week, they scored their first touchdown when they were down 30-6. Against the Dolphins, Cowboys, that was in the fourth quarter. Dolphins, they were down 17-3 in the third. Buccaneers, 23-6 in the fourth. And the Bills, 30-3 in the fourth. So combined, they've been outscored 118 by the time they score their first touchdown in the last 4 games. That's an 82-point difference. On average, they are trailing by 20 points when they score their first touchdown. And you just look at the scores of games when they enter the fourth quarter all year long, even add on the one game that they led against the Pittsburgh Steelers by 10. They're averaging going into the fourth quarter this year down 13. That's 2 scores. They've been the king of garbage time. I've mentioned that. That's who they've been. 32% of Fields' yards and 75% of his touchdowns have come in the fourth quarter when they've just been getting dominated. And defenses start to play backed off, prevent, let the clock run out, don't let anything over the top, let a lot of short, quick completions, pick up yards after the catch, keep them in bounds. It's what they do. So the Jets have to get off to quick starts in this game. They have to start faster. And to me, kind of throwing on to that, it's finishing drives. You look at some of the drives that the Jets have had and the errors that they have made that have hurt drives. You go to the Miami game. I'm just going to list a few off. The Miami game, the Braylon Allen fumble on the first drive. That's the difference from getting 7 to nothing. And then the Dolphins turn around and go down and score. Right? You look at the last week's game. While it wasn't the first drive of the game, still a very important drive before halftime. Breece Hall, they're running the football well. They're having success. They're in a position to potentially punch it in and tie the game at 10 going into halftime and put yourself in a spot to come out, play a good 30 minutes and finish it off and get your first win. Instead, you turn around in the blink of an eye, you fumble, the defense stinks, the offense gets the ball off, go 3 and out. They ended up, Cowboys get the ball, Javonte with the 66-yard run, they end up scoring, and it's 23-3 going into halftime. Anytime they hit adversity, they crumble. But more importantly, finish drives, they've had those errors. The fumbles, the penalties. I go back to Tampa. They're moving the football. You have the illegal formation on Arian Smith. And that's the difference between 7 and 3. Last week, same story. A misfire. Red zone, couldn't convert. They have to settle. That's the difference between winning games and losing games. The difference between a good football team and a bad football team. And the Jets right now are a very bad football team. And that's a big reason why. So you've got to start fast. You've got to finish drives. And I just wanted to throw these numbers out here as well. The Jets this season in the first quarter have scored 15 total points. That's 25th in the NFL. They have scored 19 total points in the second quarter. That's 27th. Third quarter, 17 points. That's 23rd. But here you go. Fourth quarter, they've scored 61 points. That's tied for first in the NFL, and it leads the AFC. Kings of garbage time, as I've said. So on average, they're averaging 3 points in the first quarter, 3.8 in the second quarter, 3.4 in the third quarter, and 12.2 in the fourth. So they have technically averaged under 10 points going into the fourth quarter. That's unacceptable. And you look at Denver, well, they're a pretty good defense, and you look at their quarter-by-quarter breakdown. 18 points this year allowed in the first, that's 8th best. 34 in the second, that's 19th. 7th in the third quarter with 16 points allowed, and they're second in the fourth quarter with 16 points allowed as well. So they're averaging 3.2 points allowed in the third and fourth quarter. So second half, they're really only averaging 6 points. First half, 3 points in the first and 6 in the second. So very good defense. It's going to be tough to score. And it's going to be even tougher to score with the way they've been playing and the way they've hurt themselves. So start fast, finish drives. Don't have this be a 30-3 game again where you're putting up 21 points in the third quarter, and instead of losing by 20, you lose by 13, and you make a 30-3 game turn into 33-23, and it looks more competitive because you scored in garbage time. Change that this week. And my final offensive key, because I would say this for the defense, but it's just, this is more of a message to the special teams and offense at this point, because the Jets defense, I'm convinced, is just never going to force a turnover. And it's just very repetitive every single week coming on here and begging the Jets defense to force a turnover. So it's gotten to a point now where as an offense, as the special teams, But in this case, the offense, because that's what we're discussing, limit the turnovers. And that also kind of tied into what I was just talking about with the slow starts and the finishing drives. You've had 2 drive killer fumbles with the Braylon fumble and the Brees fumble. Can't happen. Limit the turnovers tomorrow. This defense can't force turnovers. They have shown you no sign that they will ever force a turnover. That's how bad it's been. It's not even like they've been close recently to forcing a turnover. Heck, when the play is blown dead, they still can't jump on a fumble. Last week against Dallas. That's how pathetic they are right now. So as from an offensive standpoint, just limit the turnovers. The minute you turn the football over, it's over because you're going to lose the turnover battle right then and there because you have no faith in this defense. You look at the team, the Jets from a turnover perspective, -8 turnover differential. That's last in the NFL. They haven't forced a turnover yet, which is last in the NFL. The only team to do that, and they're the only team, and I brought this up before, they're the first team in NFL history to be 0-5 and have 0 takeaways. So they are literally doing things that we have never seen in the NFL before when it comes to forcing turnovers. So from the offensive perspective, you've got to limit them. You can't have them because the minute you have it, the minute you fumble the football, these games have been over. The team hits adversity and they crumble. And you have no faith in the defense to get turnovers, that automatically you're going to lose the turnover battle. And that's a recipe for a loss, which the Jets have had already 5 of them in 5 games. And a big reason of that has been the turnover issues. They've also had 8 giveaways. They've also turned the ball over a lot, which is tied for 4th. So that hasn't helped either when you consider the whole turnover issues with the Jets this season. So those are my 3 offensive keys to the game. Moving on now to the defensive side of the football. First key to the game, it's getting pressure on Bo Nix. And this is a big one because you're getting Jermaine Johnson back, and you've got to just hope and you expect that this unit should get more pressure on Bo Nix. Missing an offensive lineman, can they finally take advantage of that? Can this defense ever take advantage of facing another team? No. Is Denver missing 4 of their 5 offensive linemen? No. But can you at least take advantage of one absence? Can you at least take advantage of one backup on the offensive line? I mean, you're allowed to do that because this defense has shown you nothing for that. But with Jermaine Johnson back, you've got to be able to get pressure on Bo Nix. And I look at that Pittsburgh game, and you look at pressures, quarterback hits, and sacks. Those 3, that trio were dominant. Quinnen had 5 pressures, 3 quarterback hits, and a sack. Will McDonald, 3 pressures, 3 QB hits, 2 sacks. And Jermaine Johnson, 4 pressures and a quarterback hit. Combine those 3, had 12 pressures, 7 QB hits, and 3 sacks. I'm not saying you're going to get that tomorrow. And who knows how healthy Jermaine Johnson looks and is. You also have to realize this is a guy who came off a torn Achilles, looked good, but only played 2 games, then missed 3 straight weeks, and now he's back. So it's been very, very not much. It's been very inconsistent for Jermaine. He missed all last year, came back, played 2 games, hurt again. Now he's back. So hope he can be out there pretty close to 100%. He's a huge piece to have, both run defense and getting to the quarterback, just holding the edge, all those things. He's so well-rounded. You've got to get to Bo Nix. When you look at Bo Nix this season, 64.8% completion percentage, 1,103 yards, 6.3 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, an 87.9 passer rating, and a 54.1 QBR. He's 13th in yards, tied for 9th in touchdowns. He is tied for 5th most in interceptions, so has made some mistakes from that standpoint this season. 24th in passer rating and 20th in QBR. Bo Nix this year has missed some passes. He's had some misfires, specifically deep. And I think getting pressure on Bo Nix is really important because he doesn't handle, for another reason why it's really important, he doesn't handle pressure very well. This season, he's been pressured on 26.2% of his dropbacks. And on those 51 total dropbacks, he's been kept clean for the most part. But when he is pressured, he has a completion percentage of just 47.6% and a passing grade of 36.9 and an overall grade of 36.9 as well. So he really struggles. He has completed under 50% of his passes and grades out to a 36.9 when he has faced pressure on 51 dropbacks this season. And he's had some misfires deep. And I think you get pressure in his face and you cause him to kind of speed up his processing, speed up his processing, like I said, kind of repeating myself. But you put himself in that position, you get his feet a little bit out of whack, his footwork, and force him to kind of just throw it out there and have misfires that could potentially lead to a turnover. Who knows? But you're putting him in tough situations, and you're putting him in situations that he doesn't do a very good job handling, and that is pressure. So that's another big reason, on top of the fact that you need to get pressure, because this is a Jets defense that hasn't got enough of it. They've had 7 sacks this season. That's tied for 28th in the NFL. They've had 3 sacks in the last 4 games. Unacceptable. 4 of those 7 sacks came in game 1. That's 66%. Their 31.4% blitz rate, 7th in the NFL, but their 28% pressure rate on blitzes is last. So they're a top 10 blitzing team, but they're dead last in actually getting pressure while blitzing. Change that tomorrow. If you're going to blitz, get pressure. 24 pressures as a team this year. That's tied for 30th. So they're bottom 3, and they're also bottom 3 in pressure rate at 15.1%. So they have just not gotten any pressure on quarterbacks. Bo Nix struggles with pressure. Get home. Jermaine Johnson, have a big day. Get home. He's healthy. And how about Will McDonald? Now, I just talked about it a little bit ago, but this was a guy who in game number 1 had 3 pressures, 3 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. Coming off a 10.5 sack, 61 pressure season, you saw Will McDonald potentially having a big 12, 13 sack season. Week number 1, he was great. 85.9 PFF grade in that pass rush grade. Since that point, though, 1 quarterback hit and no sacks. He's been a non-factor. You get Jermaine Johnson back, take some of the attention off of him. Those 2 guys coming off the edge, you've got to find some success. My second defensive key here is slowing down the play action. The Jets defense against play action is one of the most frustrating and probably one of the worst things I've ever seen as a football fan. And I'm saying that all seriously. And I don't want to just be negative all episode, but I mean, really, what is there to be positive about an 0-5 Jets team right now? But legitimately, their defense against play action this season is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Forget just as a Jet fan in the NFL in general. It is horrible. And the most frustrating part hasn't just been watching it, but seeing it the same thing every single week with no adjustments from Steve Wilks at all. And let's be honest, until Steve Wilks actually makes the adjustment, there's really no reason to believe that they are going to slow down anybody, and specifically play action. I mean, every single game there's been guys just running wide open across the middle and no defenders in the area. It's been terrible. And last week they got shredded. Miami, they got shredded. And those were 2 high play action usage teams. And Denver is going to be another challenge, because you look at Denver going into this game, they are running play action 18.3% of the time. And you look at that and you look at where that ranks, that's 6th in the NFL. And you look at Dallas and Miami, Dallas runs 19% play action, which is 3rd in the NFL and 1st in the NFC. And Miami runs 16.2% play action, which is 12th. 2 teams that the Jets defense got shredded by. One that leads the NFC and is 3rd in the NFL, and the other one that's top 15, top 12 at number 12 in Miami, and a Broncos team that's comfortably inside top 10, inside the top 7 at 6 with 18.3%. By the way, the Jets offense, just looking at it, 11.3%, which is 31st. So bottom of the league, second to last in that area. So hopefully maybe more of that. But defensively, you've got to be able to slow down the play action. And until they prove that they can, players only meeting, is that really going to change anything? Is Steve Wilkes going to change anything? I don't think a player-only meeting is going to do anything. I think there's parts of this defense that just simply isn't talented enough. I think there's a defensive coordinator that just isn't good. Those things aren't going to change from a players-only meeting, but it's something that needs to if this team wants any chance of starting to show signs of improvement as this season moves on. So that's my second defensive key. And my final defensive key here is containing J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins has had one of the more under-the-radar starts to the season this year at the running back position. And similar to when talking about getting pressure on Bo Nix and having Jermaine Johnson back, Jermaine's ability against the run is much improved over the likes of Tyler Barron, Braden McGregor, Michael Clemens, guys that shouldn't even be on NFL rosters. Jermaine Johnson, massive upgrade, not only from a pass rushing standpoint, but what he does as well from a run defending standpoint. And you look at a guy like Will McDonald needs to be much better against the run. He has a 39.5 run defense grade. That is inexcusable. And a 29.5 tackling grade and a 40% missed tackle rate. All in all, a 57.8 PFF grade this season, which would be the worst of his career if the season ended right now. So Will McDonald needs to be a lot better against the run, but you hope Jermaine Johnson can make an impact and Quinnen as well in the interior. And the reason I bring up those three names again is with Jermaine Johnson healthy again. You go back to that Pittsburgh game, the only game that they showed they could stop the run. Pittsburgh's run game had 20 carries for 53 yards, 2.7 yards per carry. Hopefully you can have something like that tomorrow against J.K. Dobbins and this Broncos offense. Dobbins this season has 77 carries, which is tied for 11th in the NFL, so has been utilized at a high rate. 402 yards, 5th in the NFL, 5.2 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns, which is tied for 6th. That's what makes this Broncos defense so dangerous, and that's what adds another layer to this defense is a run game. They didn't have a run game at all last year. You now give them a run game, give them a veteran in J.K. Dobbins who, when healthy, has shown flashes, when healthy, is now given a chance to make some plays for this Broncos team and has done a very good job of that. And R.J. Harvey as well has quietly put together a nice early start to the season as the number 2 running back as well, 4.8 yards per carry, and has done some good things in the receiving game for this Broncos team. So really 2 solid backs. Jermaine Johnson back in the lineup. Will McDonald has got to be way better against the run. Quinnen in the interior. This is a defense tomorrow that's got to be able to slow down these running backs and contain them tomorrow morning. So that's my final defensive key. Now, in terms of, and by the way, this is a Jets rushing defense that is 27th in the NFL, allowing 140.4 rush yards per game. Denver, 5th ranked rushing offense in football, 88.4. I'll give you some other rankings here before we get into X factors and matchups to watch on offense and defense. The Jets offense, 20th total offense, 3rd rushing offense, 28th passing offense, 19th scoring offense. Defense, 22nd total, 27th against the run, 13th against the pass, 31st scoring. Broncos offense, 10th total offense, 4th rushing offense, 15th passing, 18th scoring. And their defense, top 5 at number 5 in total and rushing offense, 8th passing, 2nd scoring. So comfortably a top 10 defense in a lot of areas, comfortably inside the top 5. X factors here for the Jets. Offensively, I'm going to go Justin Fields. I think his ability to get the ball out on time tomorrow, not let the pressure get to him because he's holding on to the football for too long. Engstrand giving him some easy, quick passes early in this game to get involved. I look for him to need to have a very good game from that standpoint. Some other X factors. I look at this entire offensive line, but specifically Armand Membu. Awesome first 4 weeks of the season. Was one of the best 4 weeks of the season that we've ever seen. One of the best starts of the season, even with last week, that we've ever seen from a rookie tackle, to the point where some people have given him offensive rookie of the year type of praise. That's how good Armand Membu was. He has done things in the first 4 weeks of the season prior to last week that we've never seen from a rookie tackle. However, last week was the first bump in the road. He had 5 pressures allowed, 4 penalties, and a 59.3 PFF grade. This is a big opportunity, a big game for Membu on how he rebounds. First 4 weeks were great. You have a bad game against Dallas. How do you rebound? And you get a chance to rebound against a really, really good Denver front. So I look for him tomorrow as an X factor and him tomorrow to have a bounce back game. On the year, still very good. You look at some of the PFF numbers, 73.2 overall grade, 70 pass blocking grade, and a 77.2 run blocking grade. Offensive line as a whole, Membu, look for those 2 or 1 unit Membu specifically. X factors need to have bounce back games tomorrow. Mason Taylor's another one as an X factor. The last 2 games have been excellent for Mason Taylor. One of the lone bright spots on this team. 14 receptions, 19 targets, 132 yards, 9.4 yards per reception. That's an average of 7 receptions, 9 targets, 66 yards, and 9.4 yards per reception per game. If he could continue to do that the rest of the way, you really like where Mason Taylor is headed. One of the lone bright spots on this team. One of the lone bright spots of that draft class right now, for being honest. And AZ Thomas and Malachi Moore haven't gotten enough time. Arian Smith still a rookie, but Maui Noah, Barron, they've done absolutely nothing. You've gotten really good play from Membu, and you're starting to see Mason Taylor come along. And I think Mason Taylor is not only somebody to watch for, but also an X factor. Easy completions, get the ball to the tight ends, get him involved early. Defensive X factor, Jermaine Johnson. Back tomorrow, go out there, have a big game, make your impact felt, help this defense that desperately needs it. And every week it's going to be Steve Wilks until they play well or Steve Wilks isn't the defensive coordinator. I think that's a good way to describe it. You guys know why. Steve Wilks, he's been terrible. So he is going to need to be better if this defense wants to go anywhere or be any better. Just show improvement. So those are my X factors on defense. Matchups to watch, Garrett Wilson, Pat Surtain. That's obviously a big one offensively. I already mentioned Justin Fields in this Broncos pass rush. And specifically when talking about Armand Membu, he'll see a lot of Zach Allen. Zach Allen, one of their premier pass rushers, coming off of a really, really big 2024 campaign, and so far has had a nice 2025 campaign. So good challenge for the rookie right tackle. Defensively, you look at Sauce Cortland Sutton. Sauce has had 4 bad games, 1 good game, or as I should say, Ahmad. I think the Sauce nickname needs to be put on hold until he starts playing well again. And this Jets run defense against J.K. Dobbins is one of the bigger aspects of this game. Again, tackling. The Jets tackling is an X factor. That in itself needs to be better. So with all that being said, still don't remain high at all on this Jets team. And I think most Jet fans are in the same boat. I understand the angle of, and I will tell you this, that if I was a Jet fan right now and we were in the Broncos position, we would be so scared about a potential trap game because we've seen this type of game from the Jets in the past where they're finally playing good football and they face a really bad team and they lose. They always lose games that they shouldn't lose. So from that Jet standpoint, that would happen. Denver, I just don't see it. I just don't see a team. They're a very good team. They're a well-coached team. I just don't see them being in a trap game like this is a hangover type of game. I just don't see it. I think when you look at the Jets, they have been so bad that even if Denver has an off day, I don't see a world where the Jets win this game. I just don't. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope they come out and win, and I hope they can start to show some positive signs of moving in the right direction, at least just being competitive in this game. Can they at least have this be a game going into halftime? Is that hard to ask? Heck, the second quarter. I mean, come on now. Can you not make a mistake in the first quarter where you know the game's over? Is that too hard to ask? Right now it is. So I think the Broncos win 31-13. I think this is a really ugly day again because I just have no faith in this Jets defense, and this Broncos offense or Broncos defense is elite. And this Jets offense right now has shown you not enough in meaningful parts of the game, not garbage time, every other part of the game. When you talk about the first 3 quarters, not enough to trust that they can generate points on this defense. So 31-13, I think this is an ugly one. I hope I'm wrong, but this Jets team right now, this coaching staff is giving you no reason to believe that they can go in and beat a really good team in Denver, out-coach somebody like a Sean Payton. Just don't see it. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on this week 6 matchup, Jets Broncos? What are your predictions? Let me know down below. Appreciate you as always. We will be back after the game tomorrow to recap all of the action. So stay tuned. Appreciate you all. And until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.